So I need you to just picture a scenario for a second. You're out at dinner. You want to show a friend a photo of, I don't know, your dog or a meal you cooked or something, and you hand them your phone, unlocked.
Oh, yeah. It's basically the scariest moment in modern social interaction.
It really is. You hand it over, and then,
There's thumb hovers.
yes, their thumb hovers. They look like they're about to swipe left or right, and your heart just physically stops.
Total panic. Every single time.
Right. But here's the thing, and I was actually thinking about this on the way into the studio today. Why do we panic? I mean, it's not like I have anything illegal on there. I'm not, running a cartel from my Photos app.
I hope not.
I'm not hiding state secrets.
Yeah.
So why does it feel like I'm handing them a live grenade?
Because you aren't just handing them a device with data. You're handing them your brain.
That's it, isn't it? It just feels incredibly invasive.
It does. And we usually dismiss this feeling as just, general privacy concerns like, oh, I don't want them to see my banking app or I don't want them to see an embarrassing selfie. But the source text we're deep diving into today suggests that the panic is actually rooted in something much, much more primal.
Yeah, the source material today is absolutely fascinating. It's this text titled "The Phone as Vault of the Inner World." And honestly, it completely flipped my perspective on what this black rectangle actually is. The author argues that the phone has basically become a portable subconscious.
Portable subconscious is the perfect term for it. And I want to set the stage here because we aren't talking about screen time today.
Right.
We aren't talking about dopamine loops or social media addiction. Those are external behaviors. Today, we're looking at the internal. Our mission with this deep dive is to explore how human interiority, so our deepest thoughts, fears, memories, how all of that has migrated out of our bodies and into digital code.
Which sounds like a sci-fi premise. But the text lays it out as this historical inevitability. It starts with a lineage of memory that I actually found really challenging to wrap my head around at first. It claims that human memory didn't always live in language.
No, it didn't. And this is where we really have to slow down because the anthropology in the source is dense, but it is so crucial. The text outlines a timeline. It says, before paper, memory lived in oral lineage.
Okay, and that's easy enough to grasp. Storytelling, bards, repeating history around a fire to keep it alive.
Exactly. But then it goes back further. It says, before oral lineage, memory lived in ritual gesture.
Yeah, this is where I got a bit stuck. Ritual gesture. So before we had words to describe a complex feeling or a history, we danced it?
Essentially, yes. I mean, think about it. If you don't have complex language to store a trauma or a major victory, where does it go?
I guess it has to go somewhere.
It goes into the body. You reenact it. You create a physical ritual to contain the meaning. It's somatic storage. The body itself is the vault.
That makes a lot of sense, actually, like muscle memory on a cultural scale.
But the text goes back to the very origin. It says, before ritual, memory lived in silence.
Silence. It's hard to even imagine. We live in such a relentlessly noisy world. What does memory living in silence even look like?
The author implies it's a state of pure being, a world where the inner life wasn't separated from the outer life at all. There was no need to store anything because you were simply living it in the present moment. But as human consciousness got more complex, we needed containers. So we moved from silence to gesture to speech to paper.
And now we've made the leap to the phone.
Precisely.
And that's the jump that really matters for us today. The text argues that the inner world now lives entirely inside this piece of glass. And the specific examples it gives, I mean, they really hit a nerve for me. It's not just talking about your contacts list or your calendar.
It's not at all. It's talking about what it calls the digital glass. The source lists things like photos no one else sees.
Which is a huge distinction. This isn't Instagram. This isn't the curated version of me I show the world. These are the photos I took for, well, I don't even know who. Just for me.
Exactly. Or consider the next example they give. Voice notes recorded at 3:17 a.m.
Oh, that one felt like a personal attack. Why is it always 3 a.m.?
Because it's the witching hour of the psyche. It implies a moment of insomnia or sudden anxiety or even a burst of creative brilliance that you're absolutely terrified you'll lose by morning. You can't call a friend at 3:17 a.m. So you tell the machine. You offload the burden of that thought into the device.
The text also mentions drafts never sent and locked folders.
Yes, the source refers to all of these things as fragments of self suspended in digital glass.
Suspended in digital glass. It's a beautiful image, but it's also kind of clinical, almost like a specimen jar in a lab.
It creates a visual of transparency, like you can see it right there behind the screen,
Yeah.
but it's completely separated from the real world. And this leads to the core psychological argument of the piece. The phone provides containment.
Okay, let's dig into this word containment. Because usually when I think about hiding things in a locked folder or typing out a long text and then deleting it instead of sending it, I feel kind of cowardly. I feel like I'm just repressing things. Isn't this just a high-tech version of bottling up your emotions?
That is the natural assumption we all make. We are constantly taught that letting it out is healthy and keeping it in is toxic. But the text pushes back on that hard. It makes a very sharp distinction between repression and containment.
So what's the difference in practice?
Repression is denial. Repression is pushing a thought down so deep you pretend it doesn't even exist. Containment, according to the source, is gestation. It is incubation.
Incubation, like an egg or virus.
Like a womb. Or maybe a better analogy is a dark room for developing photographs. Think about a really complex feeling, maybe profound grief or a confusing romantic attraction. If you speak it out loud the very second you feel it, it might not be ready. It might be too raw. People might judge it. Or you might not even understand what you're saying yourself yet.
So the phone acts as a sort of holding pen.
It acts as a safe harbor. It allows you to externalize the thought, to write the note, to record the voice memo, so it becomes real, but it keeps it safe from the world until it has matured.
That's actually an incredibly forgiving way to look at it. So those drafts I never sent to people, that wasn't me failing to communicate. That was me processing.
Ideally, yes. It gives form to thoughts that are, as the text says, not yet ready to be spoken.
And there has to be, but here, is there a point where incubation just becomes hoarding? Because I have notes on my phone from 2018 that I haven't looked at since. That doesn't feel like gestation to me. That feels like a landfill.
That is precisely the danger the source warns about. It explicitly says, when everything remains sealed indefinitely, interiority can stagnate.
Stagnation.
Energy has to circulate. If you write the angry letter and never send it, that's healthy processing. If you keep the angry letter and reread it every single night for 5 years,
That is definitely stagnation.
yes, the energy begins to compress.
Compress, that's a visceral word. It feels like a pressure cooker.
It creates a massive psychic weight. You end up carrying around gigabytes of unresolved emotion right there in your pocket.
So how do we know the difference? I mean, how do I, sitting here today, know if I'm incubating a great idea or just hiding from reality?
The text actually offers a really solid framework for this. It breaks down 3 distinct ways we treat this inner world: preserving, protecting, and hiding. And the differences are subtle, but incredibly important.
Okay, walk me through these because I feel like I blur the lines between them constantly.
First, there is preserving. The text defines this as archival.
Okay, so that's the past. Old photos of a vacation or maybe text from a grandmother who passed away.
Right. You aren't trying to change those things, and you aren't afraid of them. You just don't want them to disappear. That's neutral. That's healthy.
Got it. What about protecting?
Protecting is defined as a boundary. This implies active intent. You are working on something, maybe a creative project, maybe a deeply personal issue, and you are consciously keeping it private to let it grow. You are protecting it for now.
For now being the operative phrase there.
Exactly. But then there's the third category, hiding. And the text defines hiding as rooted in a fear of distortion.
Fear of distortion. That's a really interesting phrasing. It's not fear of being seen, it's fear of being distorted.
Yes, it's the paralyzing fear that if you show this part of yourself to the world, they will fundamentally misunderstand it. They will twist it. They won't see the nuance. So out of pure fear, you lock it away in the digital vault.
Wow, that really resonates. That feeling of, I can't post this, people will think I'm crazy, or I can't send this text, they'll take it the wrong way, so the phone just becomes a bunker.
Precisely. We treat the phone as this impenetrable fortress where we can be our true, messy selves without any consequence. But, and this is a major pivot in the text, this sense of safety is largely an illusion.
Yeah, this is where the deep dive gets a little unnerving. We've been talking about the phone as a vault this whole time, but the source points out that technologically that's, well, it's a total lie.
It is a complete myth. The text states bluntly, technologically, the phone is not a true vault.
I mean, logically, we know this, right? We all know about the cloud. We just choose to ignore it.
We ignore the sheer scale of it. The text lists the actual breaches in the vault. Cloud sync, metadata, carrier systems, automated backups. Even if you don't send the photo to anyone, if it's backed up to a server, it has fundamentally left your possession.
But what about the stuff that isn't backed up? Or the things I specifically put in a locked, password-protected folder on the device itself?
The source brings up a terrifying concept to counter that. Metadata. Even if the content itself is hidden, the behavior is entirely visible. The carrier knows you were active at 3:17 a.m. They know exactly where you were standing when you were typing. They know how long you typed.
So they might not know the exact words I wrote in the diary entry, but they know I was pacing around my kitchen writing a diary entry in a state of panic in the middle of the night.
Exactly. The text describes the phone as encrypted infrastructure inside corporate architecture.
Encrypted infrastructure inside corporate architecture. That phrasing makes me feel like a tenant. Like I'm just renting space for my soul in a building owned by a landlord who literally has a master key.
You are. We are all essentially squatting in corporate databases. Privacy, as the source notes, is partial, not absolute. If the terms of service change tomorrow, or if there is a subpoena, the vault opens.
That is profoundly unsettling. So if it's not actually safe, if the lock on the door is that flimsy, why do we use it? Why do we pour our deepest secrets into these things day after day?
Because the safety we feel is psychological more than literal. It feels like a vault.
It's basically a placebo effect.
In a way, yes. Think about the user interface. When you lock your phone, there's an audible sound. Click. The screen goes completely black. You need a face scan or a complex passcode to open it back up. These are modern rituals of containment. They signal to your primal brain, this is shut, this is mine.
It's all about control. In a chaotic world where I can't control anything else, I can absolutely control who sees this one specific holder.
Exactly. And this need to control and store the secret self is ancient. The text moves from the technical to the symbolic here, and it uses some absolutely incredible metaphors. It compares the modern phone to a modern grimoire.
A grimoire. That's a book of magic spells, right? Like something a medieval wizard carries around.
Yes. And think about what a spellbook does. It holds secret, dangerous knowledge. It has the power to summon things into reality.
Summon things.
Think about it. You press a specific sequence of glass buttons, and a car appears at your door. You press another sequence, and a voice from across the ocean speaks directly into your ear. You summon food. You summon moving images of the dead. It is literal magic.
I've never thought about it that way. We are walking around with a book of spells in our pocket that actively alters reality.
The author also calls it a pocket shrine, and a mirror that remembers.
A mirror that remembers. That one really stuck with me when I was reading, because a normal mirror, if I look in a mirror right now, I just see me today. Tired, maybe a little disheveled.
But the phone mirror is completely different. It reflects your past self back to you. It shows you exactly who you were 5 years ago today. It shows you the relationships that ended. It freezes time.
Which goes right back to that idea of stagnation we talked about. A normal mirror lets you walk away and move on. The phone mirror can trap you in who you used to be.
It can, if you let it. The text draws a direct line between us and our ancestors here. It points out that ancient people buried clay tablets, and medieval mystics kept hidden manuscripts under floorboards.
So the impulse is exactly the same. The mystic, hiding a heretical text in the 12th century,
Felt the exact same rush of containment and protection that you feel when you move a sensitive photo to your hidden folder. The technology changes from clay to paper to digital glass. But the human archetype, the absolute need to keep a secret self, remains identical.
So we've established that the phone is this powerful, imperfect, semi-magical vault where we stash our inner lives. But here's the thought experiment that the text proposes toward the end, and I found this actually really difficult to sit with.
The destruction scenario.
Yes. The text asks, what happens if the device is destroyed? And my immediate reaction, and I think pretty much every listener would agree, is pure panic. Absolute devastation.
Because you feel like you are losing the memory itself. You feel like you are losing the physical evidence that you even existed.
Right. If I lose the photos of that trip, did the trip really happen? If I lose the texts from that relationship, did it even matter? It genuinely feels like losing a limb.
But the text makes a major pivot to metaphysics here. It argues that we are fundamentally confusing the container with the contents. It says metaphysically, the internal world does not live in the device. The device only stores artifacts.
Artifacts, like pottery shards in a museum.
Yes, traces, footprints of where you've been. But the text introduces this brilliant concept of the generative field. It says the generative field remains consciousness itself.
Okay, hold on. Generative field, that's getting a little abstract for me. Translate that into plain English.
Think of it this way. The phone is a bucket. The memories, the notes, the photos, that's the water in the bucket. But you, your consciousness, your mind, your soul, you are the well.
I am the well.
You are the infinite source of the water. If the bucket is destroyed, the water that was in it is gone, yes. And that is incredibly sad. But the well itself is not destroyed. You can still generate new thoughts, new memories, new feelings.
That is actually incredibly comforting, but also really hard to accept in daily life because we just get so fiercely attached to our specific bucket.
We do. We totally fetishize the artifact. We convince ourselves that the photo is the moment, but the photo is just a dead piece of code. The feeling of the moment lives entirely in you.
So if we accept that we are the source and the phone is just a temporary, fragile vault, what are we actually supposed to do? How do we live with this thing without letting it turn into that pressure cooker we talked about earlier?
The text ends with a powerful discussion on the concept of coherence,
Coherence.
and it's very careful to define what this means. It says coherence is not exposure.
Oh, thank goodness. Because for a second there, I thought the ultimate advice was going to be post everything, share all your darkest secrets online. And I'm definitely not doing that.
No, absolutely not. The text deeply respects the need for privacy. It says coherence is alignment between inner world and outer expression.
Alignment. So it's not about showing everyone everything. It's about making sure that what's living inside isn't actively fighting with what's happening outside.
Correct. It
Yeah.
returns directly to that idea of circulation. You can have a secret world, you can have a private vault, but there must be a flow. The things you incubate inside the phone eventually need to inform who you actually are in the physical world.
Give me a concrete example. What does that actually look like?
We'll take that 3.17 a.m. voice note. Maybe you recorded a sudden idea for a novel or a realization that you're deeply unhappy in your current job. If that note stays in the phone forever, it's just dead data. It's rotting. But if you take that note, listen to it in the light of day, and then actually quit your job, or sit down and start writing the book, then the interiority is circulated. It has become real.
It has successfully crossed the bridge from the digital glass into the physical world.
Exactly. The phone served its purpose as the incubator, but the world is where the life actually happens.
And if we don't do that, if we just keep stuffing more and more into the vault without ever taking anything out,
Then we face the final, very stark warning of the text. It asks the central question: what is the right balance between containment and circulation? And it states beautifully, a vault is useful, a prison is not.
a vault is useful, a prison is not. That hits really hard because I can feel the difference in my own life. I know when I'm using my phone to cherish a good memory, and I know exactly when I'm using it to trap myself in the past.
When you are doom scrolling through old messages from an ex for the 100th time,
Yeah.
that's a prison. You are willfully locking yourself in a cell with the artifacts.
And the door is locked from the inside.
Precisely.
So the ultimate takeaway here isn't to just throw our phones into the ocean and go off grid.
No. The phone is a miraculous tool for self-reflection. It's a literal pocket shrine. But we need to remember that shrines are places you visit. They aren't places you live.
We need to respect the incubation process, but we also really need to know when to finally hatch the egg, when to hit send on the draft, when to print the photo out and put it on a real physical wall.
You must ensure the energy continues to move. The stillness of the vault is only valuable if it eventually leads to action in the real world.
This has been such a mind-bending look at something I touch 1,000 times a day. I really don't think I'll ever be able to hover my thumb over a photo album again without thinking about the inner world living inside there.
It certainly adds a massive layer of weight and responsibility to the technology we carry.
Before we sign off today, I want to leave you, the listener, with a final provocation. Something for you to mull over while your phone is sitting right there in your pocket. We talked a lot about the artifacts versus the source today.
Yes.
So here's the question for you. If your phone was completely wiped clean today, total factory reset, no cloud backup to save you, the artifacts would be gone. The texts, the photos, the notes, all gone. But you, the source, would remain. So looking at your own digital vault, what is currently in there that is stagnating? What part of your inner world is trapped in the glass right now that is actually ready to be released?
What is finally ready to be spoken?
That is the question. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us. We'll see you next time.